personally. Actually, he's a ham radio operator. I met him as a ham radio operator before I realized who he was. and I met him in the radio business. It was funny. Yeah, you guys can look up Jim Cutler, and he's on Facebook and everything. And if you do, tell him MJ says hi. Yeah, longtime friend, really cool guy. But I know you know his voice when you hear him. He's done a billion things. But I was thinking the other day, I got all this talk radio experience. The good thing about me is that I actually did not pursue a career as a voiceover artist. So my voice is not saturated in the market. It's not like, oh, it's that guy again, oh, he's the Culligan man, or he's the, whatever. And so I am strongly considering using my website and offering voiceover services, because I've got the experience and certainly have the recording technology to do that, and the microphones and everything that I need. But I just haven't done that much of it. I mean, I did my own ads and things on Talk America, for my show, and I did a couple of spots for Talk America, and occasionally I would do spots for others. So I think I might just get into doing some voiceovers, just because, like I said, I'm not oversaturated. Now, there's a guy named Bob. He was a jock at WALE in Providence. And WALE was Grady's station, and I did a lot of work for Grady, and I would go to ALE and do certain maintenance jobs for him. And Bob really liked my voice, and I think he called me the voice of God, which I do not deserve. I don't know why, but he was being polite. But when I would go down there to do some work on the studio, he would say, "You got time to read something?" And if I did, I'd say yes. And if I didn't, I didn't. So anyway, I went down to do some work in the studio, and I was going to be there for a couple hours. And I came in, and he goes, "Hey man, this spot came in. I'd love to have you read it." I had a cold, like a really bad cold. And I'm like, I'm talking like this. And I'm like, oh man, I can't read anything. I can't even talk. And you should have seen his face. So I was doing some maintenance in the studio, working on the cart machine, cleaning things up and so forth. And I started thinking about it. I went back out and I said, "Bob, give me the copy. What is it, a 30? Is it a 30 or a 60? This is 30 seconds. Okay." So I'm in the production studio, and I got a stopwatch on the console, and I'm looking at the copy, and he's got about a minute and a half worth of copy. There's no way that anybody in the world could read it in 30 seconds. So I've got my pencil and marking it out. And it was for a place that I don't even know if it exists. It's somewhere in Rhode Island. Stereo Discount Center. I'll never forget. They might have been in Pawtucket, or they might have been in Providence. Stereo Discount Center. And it was a special, like this, one of these blowout sales. If you guys remember Crazy Eddie, it's crazy. He used to, his thing was he would put these weird hats on, and he would yell, and Crazy Eddie's prices are insane, I said. And I thought to myself, this needs kind of a crazy, like we're going nuts here, giving you insane prices. It needs that kind of voice, and that's kind of how I sound. So what I did was I racked up a reel of tape, and I opened the mic, and I started cutting this, and it was like, and my voice was like this, and I was going Stereo Discount Centers, sale, whatever, super sale. And I just basically screamed it, and I cut it right down to exactly 30 seconds. And I trimmed the tape, and I gave it to Bob, and I said, "This is the best I can do, man." And so he played. It was great, and I'll let you know. So he called me. That was like on Sunday. He called me the next day on Monday. He said the client came in, and he's like, I love this ad. But the problem is I got to do all the rest of them. But I can't because I don't have a cold. So that was fun. So I was driving around when I was down in Southern Mass and in Rhode Island, hearing my hoarse voice yelling stereo discount center, but that was great. But that's the only time I ever did any type of an ad that was crazy like that and screaming like that. Now Grady used to do all my ads for me. Grady is unbelievable. He's an award-winning radio announcer and also program director for decades and decades. And like me, he wasn't saturated. Like he had gotten out of the business of being behind the mic and went into engineering. So when I started doing my records, I wrote some copy and I put Grady in the studio, and he was unbelievable. I gotta find those ads. I think Danny has those ads. And what Grady would do is he always uses his fist. And when you're doing these voiceovers, you look like an idiot because you lift your lips off the teeth so they don't smack and it doesn't interfere. And he's using his fist for timing. I've seen video engineers, when they weren't recording audio, do things and go and snap between segments to sort of get like a tempo, and that's what you do. And he would lift his lips off the teeth, and he did an ad one time that was so good. Danny went to so they cut an ad for us, and it was absolutely horrible. It was terrible. It broke like all the rules. I'm like, what are you trying to do? You trying to bury my record or something? And first of all, I had 2 songs on the single. One was fast and one was slow, and they started out with the slow song. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Put people to sleep? So I said, forget it. I haven't been a recording engineer all half my life for this. So I said, Grady, would you do a spot for me? Sure. And after that, Grady said, I'll do them all for you. I wrote the copy, I queued it up. I made my own 30-second cut of my own music the way I wanted to present it on the ad. And I cut it to exactly 30 seconds because I know what I'm doing. Now, this is the old days this wasn't with a DAW. This is a razor blade, guys, and tape on a tape block. So I made a 30-second music bed, and I rolled it, and Grady nailed it like in the first take. And Danny took that ad to the radio station, and they crapped their pants. They didn't know who it was. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks for hanging in there. Hope it wasn't too boring. I know you weren't asking any questions. Hope you're just listening. But they crapped their pants, and they didn't know who Grady was. They never heard his voice before. And nobody had ever cut a music bed like that. So they all were silent and looking around. And one guy said, well, wait a minute. Maybe it's overtime. And they rolled it back, and he got a stopwatch, and it was exactly 30 seconds. And then they were like, that ad. And we made them look like a bunch of idiots because they really didn't care. That's what happens sometimes with advertising. Sometimes they don't care. They get focused on the money. Yeah, we're going to make the money. We're going to make $200 a program minute, to put this together. And we're going to sell you 16 weeks of spots at $5,000 a week, so much rotation. Let's start focusing on that rather than helping the client sell the product, which is what they're doing, what they're supposed to do. So, and that's what happened in that case. They just put like not even their B team guy. They put like their team D guy on it. It was horrible. I'll never forget. And the sound of his voice, he wasn't right. And it's not that, he had a bad sound. It just didn't match. And you know how it is. There's got to be a fit. There's a certain kind of sound, for certain kind of products, and with music too. And you guys have heard singers that didn't actually match the song, the sound of their voice. That's all it is. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean the person's bad. It just didn't fit. And so that's what happened. Anyway, this has been fun. My goodness, I haven't been on in so long, and I really missed it. And I appreciate everybody joining, and I hope that we haven't had comments because you guys are listening. Sometimes if I give like a lecture on the music business, at the end of the lecture, I'll have no or maybe one question. It's not necessarily bad. It just means that people paid attention, or maybe I explained it well enough that they don't have to ask a bunch of questions. But I look forward to being on later in the week. I'm usually not on Monday. I came on tonight, Monday, because I wasn't on last night, and I've been away so long. It's been bugging me. But I am working on my new tunes, and my goal is to, by the end of July, this also depends on Tony Vaughn being able to cut the bass track, in a timely manner, but by the end of July, it's my intention to have my first single out and released on all the platforms. So I will definitely let you know when that happens, so you can get a copy, because it is going to be a really good record. You guys take care. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.